Welcome to the One Church Television Newscast. I'm Derek Turnquest. Our top story is coming from the Goulds Church of Christ in South Miami, where they're planning to have an open panel discussion on this Friday to talk about what's wrong in America. We had the opportunity to speak with Brother Aaron Holloway, who will be making the presentation this Friday and Saturday to find out what is the state of our country.
America no longer believe in the God of its founding fathers, okay? That is what's wrong with America. Anyone that's watching the events that are happening, especially this year, can see that our country is in turmoil. And for that matter, the whole world is in turmoil. And that could be an indication that God is beginning to do some things, and we need to know. One thing that keeps coming up is in regards to the latter days, what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen, okay? But Jesus have stated something that was very peculiar. When I remember in Matthew 13 and verse 10 and 11, the apostles came to him and said, "Why do you speak to the people in parables?" And Jesus made it very clear, because it is given to you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven. Now, God is still working. He has never stopped working in the world. And he sets up kingdoms and he brings kingdoms down. He allows towers to go up and he brings towers down. And in our day and time, we've seen many of these things happen. As many of you know, recently, the gay right issue has come up, and they have won the right to get married. I can say this, from what I read in the scriptures, God is not pleased with that. So you ask me what's wrong in America? That's what's wrong in America. When America moves away from the God that the founding fathers believed in, we're getting in trouble. We are in trouble. We really want the people in our local community to know that if you watch the signs, you watch the times, you know that something big is about to happen. And people need to know that Jesus is who he said he is, and God is going to send him back. And this time it's not going to be in the form of a baby. He's coming back with vengeance, taking vengeance on everyone that know not the gospel. We want to get the gospel out, and we feel that this is a good title to draw people in so that they can see what's happening right now.
Brother Holloway said that people around the world and in America have to realize that God will only take so much.
Men in this country have turned their backs. They have turned their backs on God, and God is removing his protection. He's removing his fence. I think about Job in his case. Here is Satan challenging God regarding Job, you know, and finally Satan said, after tempting him a few times, skin for skin. You know, a man really going to protect his skin. And what did God do? Removed his protection and allowed Satan. You see, when God protects, Satan can't do a thing. I believe that God has removed his fence. He's removed his protection, and now Satan is roaming up and down doing whatever he please because God has removed it. Now the question is, why perhaps has God removed it? Because we are not putting him first anymore. We are first. It's mine. It's me, what I want. And as we can see, that kind of thinking is not what God wanted from the beginning at all. I declare this, that God is removing and perhaps has removed his protection around America, and we are no longer, for example, the dollar is no longer going to be number one. Number one is going to come out of Asia. And I got videos and things to show what's happening. There is an amassing of things around us. And as I asked the young folks about what's happening in Greece, for example, I said to one young lady, What's happening in Greece? What do you think is going to happen as a result of this? What do you mean? What do you mean? You don't know what happened in Greece recently? Okay? They defaulted on their loan to the IMF. Oh, okay, that's over there. Do you understand that it flows back this way? And when it does, it's going to be bad. And as they say in Spanish, muy mal. It's going to be terrible. Recently, we've had the Chinese market drop. Now, this seminar is going to be religious-based, but we're going to look at it from a now perspective.
As we look around at all the things that are happening in the world and in our country, Brother Holloway said that God is sending us warning signs.
Israel had Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Habakkuk. Daniel was in that period. They had all kinds of warnings from God, saying that he's displeased with what they're doing. And one thing that comes to mind, everything is bad, but one of the things that they did that I believe, and I'm going to use it in a now term, one thing that they did that really ticked God off was that they did not allow the land to have its Sabbath. And when we read in Lamentations that even in the first chapter, God was going to annihilate them and leave Jerusalem desolate. And that's what he did. But he warned them. Ezekiel went to them. Jeremiah warned them. If we were to read Jeremiah 25, I mean, Jeremiah, they called it a weeping prophet. He was weeping for his people. He was warning them and warning them. You know, God is not pleased with what you're doing. And so the Jews would not adhere to the 7-year Sabbath. Okay, and what am I speaking about when I say that? Just like the Jews had a Sabbath every week, there was also a Sabbath of Sabbaths. Okay. Okay. And when that happened, they were to release all of the debt. Right. If you had slaves, you had to release them. If someone owed you, you had to release it. 6 years, you can work the land. But on the 7th year, I want the land to have its Sabbath. Well, the Jews did not do that. And for many years, and if we plot it correctly, we'll know there was 490 years that gone by that they didn't observe it. But what we have to look at is this. Out of those 490 years, the 7th year was the year of the Shemitah, was the year of the Sabbath, okay? So the land would have a Sabbath. So the reason why the Jews went into exile by Nebuchadnezzar and the Assyrians in the north were to attack the northern kingdom, which was called Israel, and the southern kingdom, the tribe of Judah or Benjamin, is because they did not obey the Shemitah or the Sabbath. Okay? So God had them take a portion in, and look at this, how long-suffering he is. All of the Jews from the south didn't go on at one time. So he left some, and Jeremiah was still left in Jerusalem, and he was still preached to the remnant that was there. And they still didn't get it. So I think about today, America has got signs, and they're not getting it, especially the young folk. The young folks don't have a clue what is about to happen to this world. Don't have a clue. And this house church is going to be one of the ones that stand up and tell folk, listen, it's later than you think. We can show you how God has handled his people in the past and how he's going to handle them the same way in the future. And I think the future is right now.
What's Wrong with America seminar starts at 6 o'clock with a light refreshment. The presentation gets on its way at 7:30. Brother Holloway said, you don't want to miss this. I'm Derek Turnquest for the One Church Television Newscast.